Greetings, friends. It's an honor to once again welcome you back to Rick's Garage. I come to you today with yet again another repair on this Nissan Altima. We just finished replacing the water pump and serpentine belt tensioner pulley, and the car seemed to be running fine, nice and quiet, but we were still losing coolant. Now I know the water pump was indeed bad because the belt had slipped off of it and the bearing was loose. So I put my tester on the radiator. I have one of these pressure testers. Requires a special adapter for Nissan, and I still could not find the leak. It was very frustrating. Then I decided to move this fresh air intake. I'd already popped the plastic rivets that hold it in place. And then I tested it again, and as it turns out, there's a crack right here along the plastic part of this radiator, and that's where we were losing fluid. So that's what this repair is about today. We're going to be replacing this radiator. Now, I went down to my local auto parts store, and this radiator goes for about $195 plus tax, so well over $200. So I went on my old faithful eBay, and I found this radiator for about 80 bucks free shipping. So that's the route I went. I don't know how good that radiator is going to be from eBay. I don't know really how good it's going to be at my local parts store. But all I know, it's saving me about $120 to $130, so for that amount of money, I will take the chance. The whole idea of doing our own repairs is to save money. So the new radiator just came in, and so we're going to get started on replacing this. Okay friends, as you can see, I've raised the vehicle. I'm using my lift stands. They're from My Lift Stands Incorporated. I'll leave a link to that at the end of this video. This is one of those awkward jobs where you're going to have to do things both underneath the car and up on top. So we're going to try to get everything we can done underneath, then we'll lower the vehicle and finish up what we need to do up top. Okay friends, we're under the car. First thing we're going to attempt to do under here is drain the radiator. I don't know what to expect. I don't know if there's a lot of fluid in here or a little bit of fluid or what, but we'll see what comes out. We spilled a little bit. Looks like there was quite a bit in there. So I think we'll take a break. We'll just let that continue to drain out. Okay friends, that's drained out about as much as it's gonna, so I'm gonna put the plug back in. Okay. Now I've moved my pan over to the other side of the vehicle, and I'm going to attempt to remove this radiator hose. I'm expecting we'll get more coolant out of there. I hate these kind of clips. Whoops. These are a pain. There we go. All right. And we're not going to put that back on. I'll get a regular hose clamp. So now I'm going to try to get this off. It's been on there for quite a while, so it may be difficult. I'm sure I'm going to get a bath here when this comes off. A little bit. A little bit came out. Okay, not too bad. Friends, now that we've got the coolant pretty much drained out of the vehicle, you don't want to leave this stuff hanging around, especially if you work outside. This is harmful to pets and animals. It's got a sweet taste to it, although I've never tried to drink it, I'm told so. And there have been documentaries on TV about spouses trying to poison each other with it. So I'm especially conscious of this because I have 2 German Shepherds. So I got a little container here that I store my refuse antifreeze, and I'm going to pour it in right now. They take it out of our local recycling center. Yeah, made short work of that. Put the cap on it. And I'll put this back over here. Now I have, this is my collection area for hazardous materials. We have a thing for my antifreeze. This is where I put old oil filters. This is my refuse oil. And I don't know if you can see this, but right here is a bucket with holes in it where I allow my funnels to drain. Friends, I'm ready to head back under the car. This time I'm going to be disconnecting the transmission coolant lines. These are the tools I'm going to be using. Naturally, a pair of pliers to undo the hose clamps. This is a pinch-off tool to pinch off the rubber hose. These are male and female plugs. The female plugs will go on the radiator to prevent the fluid from spilling out, and the male plugs will go on the end of the hoses. And these over here are a couple of special hose pliers I plan to use. Friends, before I go any further, there may be an access panel here that you have to remove. This car is 16 years old. The access panel is long since gone. Somebody removed it at some point and never put it back. So just be prepared to access the radiator hoses and stuff. You may have to remove some sort of panel. I see this one here is hooked up into the fan shroud, so we'll disconnect that. And we're going to try to undo this clamp right here. Now what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put my pinch-off tool that I told you about, and that'll prevent any fluid from leaking from this point forward. We're going to take our pliers and try to undo the hose clamp. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Now I'm going to take my special hose pliers and I'm going to try to give it a twist to loosen it up. Okay, that seems to be nice and loose. Looks like that'll come off fairly easily. So now I'm going to be ready with those plugs I showed you, and I'm going to try to stick one over the radiator as soon as I pull the hose off. And it looks like very little came out of there, and that'll stop whatever was left. And now I'm going to take one of these little plugs, if you can see what I'm doing, and stick this in this hose here to prevent that fluid from coming out, and then I can release my pinch tool. We'll take a rag and wipe it all off. So the fluid we lost was very minimal because of the precautions we took. Okay, so now we got one more of these to do. I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. I'll do that off camera. Alright friends, we've done all we can do underneath, so off camera I lowered the car back down. As I said before, it's an awkward job where you're going to be raising the vehicle, doing things, lowering the vehicle, doing things, and re-raising the vehicle. I don't see any other way around it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to disconnect this battery terminal. The reason for that is this electric fan is live. It's controlled by a sensor, and even though it's unlikely, it could come on at any time without warning. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect the negative battery terminal. It's probably not a bad idea to do this no matter what kind of repair you're doing. And what I've got here is a little plastic cover. You get these covers when you buy a new battery, and I always save them just for this purpose. This would prevent the terminal from inadvertently coming in contact with the battery. Okay, next I'm going to attempt to remove this radiator hose. I don't expect to get anything out of it. Hopefully there'll be nothing coming out of it. Give it a little bit of a twist. And as I expected, there's nothing there, so we'll just flip this up out of the way. Okay, now we've got two plugs to remove from the electric fan assembly. What you do is you take a little right angle pick and you press down on this little tab and then pull straight up and the plug comes right out. There's one on the other side. I'll do that one off camera, exactly the same way. Okay, now we've got some wire harness ties to remove. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them all together. This one here is a little off camera, you can't quite see it. So I'm going to get a tool to pry those off. This is a door panel tool. Pry them out quite easily. And I'll get this little one here off camera. Okay, and that's all free. All right. Now with the wiring harness disconnected from the fan assembly, I'm going to go ahead and attempt to remove the radiator brackets. And it appears that both of those snapped off. So we'll have to deal with that. Okay, so now we should easily be able to pull this radiator out with the fan assembly. I say easy, nothing ever is, but let's see what happens here. Yep. So that's the way to go. It's a lot easier to try to pull this out with your fan assembly attached than try to pull the fan assembly out because it gets caught and all this stuff down the bottom. So let's get this out of the way. Friends, instead of being a big dummy like me, you'll notice those bolts started to turn a little bit before I snapped them. So instead of using a power tool, if you can get them to turn a little bit, I would spray some penetrating oil on them and try working them back and forth. If I had done that, I probably would have got them out quite easily. Like I said, now I'm going to have to deal with this. Okay friends, as I said, nothing is ever easy when you're working on an automobile. So I am going to attempt to heat these studs up and screw them out. Now this part here I was concerned about. I didn't know what it was, but I have a magnet here. See, it is magnetic, so it is indeed made out of some sort of steel. And what I've done is I went ahead and removed this front grille so the heat won't get to it. There's these little plastic rivets. I pulled them out, and then you just slide the grille out this way. It fits in little slots. So this grill is out of the way. And my game plan is to take a welding tip, because I want to concentrate the heat in a small area. Matter of fact, I'll disconnect this so it don't get hot. And I'll put a wet rag underneath here to protect the condenser. And I'm going to try to heat this in a very concentrated area, and then I'm going to put this needle nose vice grips in here and try to churn it out. See what happens. Now, if you don't have access to a torch, you're probably better off. But anyway, if you don't have access to a torch, you'll just have to drill it out and try to retap it somehow. Okay, that seems to be turning right out even though it's on fire. Seems to be a coating on this metal that was catching fire. Here we go, that screw's coming right out now. Okay, success. I'm not sure what this was. This looks like something melted here. So it looks like a metal with some sort of coating, but it looks like we didn't damage anything. We'll do exactly the same thing on the other side off camera. Okay friends, as you can see I got the grill back on. I keep a supply of these plastic panel fasteners on hand. And as luck would have it, I also had some of these 6mm body screws available, so those will work nicely to replace the ones that I snapped. The other side came off even easier than this side did. So it looks like we're going to be ready to put this radiator back in. Okay friends, I've got the two radiators out here on carts beside each other. They're almost identical. The only difference I can see is the filler neck on the new one is a little bit offset. I don't think that's an issue, at least I hope it will not be an issue. We have a couple of things we have to do before we can install a radiator. First and foremost, we have to swap the fan assembly over to the new radiator. And we have these little fittings that came with the new radiator that have to be installed for the cooling lines. Make sure you don't lose these. These were deep in the packaging of the radiator. The radiator was very well packaged, and it took me a while to open it up because they wanted to protect it during shipping. And I'm going to leave the name of the vendor I got this radiator from in the descriptions because they did a nice job. They got it to me within about 4 days. It was about half the price, less than half the price of what I would have got it locally. And it looks like a pretty nice radiator. I would trust them. And I would use them again. So the first thing I'm going to do right now is install these little fittings. Like I say, make sure you do not lose them. Like I said, these fittings are for your transmission coolant lines. On this particular radiator, it's 17mm. Yeah, okay, those are installed. Now I'm going to swap out the fan assembly. Alright, those were self-tapping screws. So let's, it came out so much easier doing this way rather than trying to do it on the car. Okay, now we're just going to flip it into the new radiator. These should fit right in. And here we go. A minute there I thought it wasn't going to fit, but it does. Very good. Now it appears these holes do not perfectly align. So we'll get one started. The fact that they're self-tapping, I guess it really don't matter. Alright, like I said, they didn't perfectly align, but they did match up close enough. Friends, I'm ready to drop the new radiator in to see how this goes. Couple of holes it goes into down here. Make sure we find them. In that one. And we're in that one. Okay. So that could not have been easier. So now we're going to put our two brackets to hold it in place. Alright, I'm going to do the next poor soul a favor that attempts to work on this vehicle. I'm going to take these 6mm fasteners and put a little dab of anti-seize on them. Now, as with the fan assembly, it didn't perfectly align, but it was close enough. The same thing here. It doesn't perfectly align, but it's well close enough. Now that the radiator's in, we're going to plug the fan assembly back in. That's in. That one's in. Now we're going to try to reconnect these little wire harnesses. That one's there. That one's in. Got one right here. Another one up here. One over here that you cannot see. Okay friends, now I'm going to attach the top radiator hose. But I'm going to get rid of this damn spring clamp. I hate these. I don't think anybody likes them. Except the manufacturers. Okay, so now I'm going to hook up the overflow hose. Okay, that's on there. Okay friends, now I'm going to reinstall the fresh air intake. You did not see me remove this. I took it off earlier to find the leak in the old radiator. It was right underneath this. I got plenty of these plastic fasteners. They come in packages of 100, so that's how I order them. They come in handy for these Nissan products, and actually they fit a lot of different vehicles, so I like to keep them on hand. They're very easy to install. I just push them in and snap them. Okay, the fresh air intake is back in. So you may notice that the battery is missing. I'll put that back in later. I did not mention it at the time, but I removed the battery in order to get this broken piece of the stud out. I needed room to manipulate the vice grips. So I'll put that back in later. I've ordered a new hold down for it. You may have noticed also that the hold down was missing. I got that on order. I'll put that on when that comes in. So I'm going to call this video done. Everything up top here is pretty much done except for the installation of the battery. Underneath, all that is required to do is hook up the 2 transmission lines. That's very quick and easy. And hook up the bottom radiator hose. And I'm going to use the same type of clamp that I used on top for all of those. So just those 3 things remain. The 2 coolant lines for the transmission and the bottom radiator hose. And then we can fill it with coolant and we'll be ready to go. So I want to thank you once again for watching Rick's Garage. Before I go, I will post 2 videos to your left, I hope of which you find them of interest. And to your right, as always, will be a picture of my avatar in the form of my trusty German Shepherd. By all means, feel free to click on that should you wish to subscribe to my channel. So thanks again for watching. We hope to see you all very, very soon.